everyone, and welcome to this very special interview we have today. Today we have joining us Lloyd Ernst, who is CEO and owner of CloudStuff. Welcome to your first broadcast on Google Hangouts, Lloyd.
Good morning, Emma. It's great to be on your broadcast. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Now, Lloyd, we're going to talk all things outsourcing and cloud-based work processes today, especially for the franchise industry, because we find that it's quite new to the franchise industry, but it's something that those that have taken it up have really reaped the benefits. So I'm going to throw it over to you now, Lloyd, to share with us a little bit about your journey and who you are and why you are leading this amazing company in the franchising direction.
Well, I was previously, I founded and sort of built a company called Web Central in Australia, and Web Central provided web hosting to Australian small to medium enterprises, and we grew that to the largest web hosting company in Australia. We had about 60,000 customers that we were looking after, and then after I exited that business, I moved up to China. Because one of the problems I found with Australian technology was that it was difficult to get developers. It was a long process, and so I moved up to China and built a outsourcing facility there doing software development, and that grew quite well. We had people in Beijing and also Xi'an. Then as the Chinese market changed, as it became more expensive, that model had to evolve, and so we now find ourselves down in the Philippines with about 400 staff spread between 3 offices here.
Fantastic. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about what CloudStuff does on a surface basis to begin with?
Sure. CloudStuff sees ourselves as a next-generation outsourcing provider, and our job is to work with SMEs, and it's really about making SMEs become global. So we take low-value, repetitive tasks and we move them offshore. The older style outsourcing providers basically would say, look, there's a desk, there's a person. After some early research we conducted, we found that a lot of outsourcing attempts actually fail the first time. So we basically have taken a lot of the expertise that we had in the web hosting field and have built systems, processes, and training to basically assist and allow our customers to leverage this to make the outsourcing a success. So we're kind of like a technology company that provides outsourcing. Is a good way of looking at us.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned some people, may have had a first-time failure. Can you go into more details about how you've helped them overcome those challenges of making outsourcing really work for them?
Absolutely. When outsourcing fails, it comes down to a couple of different reasons. One is that people look at moving a job offshore, and that's the wrong way to do it. People think, wow, the guys over there speak good English. I'll just move this accounting marketing role over, or I'll move this other position across. And it doesn't work like that. There is still cultural issues. And so what we really try to do is focus on moving breaking everything down into a process and then actually move it across. So think of it about moving processes, not about moving jobs. The other thing is that people don't have a lot of documentation. QBE, ANZ, Telstra, they're big users of outsourcing, but the difference is they've got the procedures, they've got the documentation. Most of our customers don't have that, so we actually have to provide systems and help build those processes for them. And we also have a lot of innovative training system where we take staff and we explain the difference between postcodes and post boxes. You need to be thinking at that sort of level.
Absolutely, which is always good for your business, whether you're outsourcing or not, as you've just said. Now, can you give us some examples of, obviously not names, but some examples of business models that work really well by offshoring some of their processes?
Well, we look at we've got a very broad spectrum of customers, and there's transport companies, engineering companies, accountancy firms, there's technology startups. We even have a radio station that we provide services for. So so what we're finding is there's a whole range of people that are sort of looking at how they can basically take their business and make it global. So, and what our model is, it's about building your local team here in the Philippines. We just don't do accounting. We just don't do software development. But our job is to set up your department here in the Philippines, and that can consist of data entry people, admin support services that are booking flights and managing contacts and sending out sort of proposals, bookkeeping, payroll, accounting, customer service, where we're the first line of contact either on the phone, email, or chat systems, IT support and software development, QA testing. So it is quite broad in that respect. Where things struggle, and the stuff that we don't do, is when you come and say, oh, I want someone who's going to be a second brain, a proactive innovator, or I want a guru who can do all my SEO marketing for me. You know, that you can't find. They're hard enough to find in Australia, so you struggle to find those sort of people here. So that's why, you know, when you're looking at offshoring and building an offshore team, you know, think about having the processes and working on how you can sort of move those across, and rather than trying to give an abstract concept that just doesn't work. In Australia, you know, one of the things about Australians is that we're very good at these abstract concepts. You can throw someone a problem and they'll figure out how to actually make it work and fix it and build the right people around that. In the Philippines and even in China and a lot of these other markets, you know, you can't do it like that. You have to be clearer about what your objectives are and how you're going to be breaking this down into small, manageable chunks.
So again, it comes back to process mapping, doesn't it?
A lot of process mapping, and the other problem that we find with people say, oh, I don't have time to do that. Well, we have systems and we have people that can do the documentation for you. You sit down, you record a video, something similar to this, capture the screen, explain what the process is, then you can have people transcribe that, then redo the videos, and then you can then you actually get the staff here to build your operations manual. You're building really valuable IP when you develop it like that, because process means that you have a reproducible, trainable system that can be scaled, because this is about scale. Outsourcing is not about going and taking 10 or 20% off your monthly payroll. It's a growth strategy for people, and it's also how you take your business and give you a globally competitive workforce.
Absolutely. Now, talking about payroll, Lloyd, in my circles in the franchise industry, there is, a little bit of a fear around, shipping jobs offshore. But you mentioned before, it's about building your local team overseas. Have you seen any results in Australia where it means that they can put more people on the ground for customer-facing interactions because they've now offshored their processes?
Absolutely, and I would say that most of our customers fit inside that category. This is really about providing the admin services team up here, and they're supporting people on the ground in Australia. In Sydney, for instance, you're dealing with you want to buy an apartment, it's $1 million. You want to buy a cappuccino, it's $4.50. When you have such a high economic base that everything's working from, you really have to start to think about there's lots of tasks that the staff in Australia should not be doing, and they're the ones that you want to move offshore. One of the really great examples we have is a Brisbane IT company, so it's Brisbane IT Expertise. They have some guys up here training Filipino technicians to manage servers in the US and undercut Indians. It's a really great model. And when you speak to these guys, they say, we could not do this with Australian staff managing servers in the US. It just doesn't work. So this is really about globally competitive workforces for SMEs. We're trying to give the SMEs the same ammunition and the gunpowder that QBE, ANZ, Telstra, all those guys have, the big corporate guys. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So this model could be used not just for franchisors, but also for franchisees. If you're talking SMEs, it can work on both levels in different ways.
Absolutely, but I think there's some economies of scale. You know, you want to try to figure out where you can group together because you want to make sure that you have no single point of failure. If you're going to train one person here, you really need to train two or three. Don't have one single person doing a process, train three people. If someone's away, if someone's going to leave, or those sort of things, you've got that redundancy. And so where you can try to bring together a few people and build a shared services team, that's a much better way of doing it rather than saying, I'm going to train one single person to do this.
Absolutely. So it comes back to your initial comment on it's about creating your local team overseas.
Absolutely. And this is your support team for supporting your, your Australian staff who need to be productive and need to be out there in front of the customers and serving the business.
Absolutely. So culture-wise within a business, if they do have a local team, over at Cloud Staff now, is there ways that they can develop, or pass on some of their business culture with their team over in your offices?
Absolutely, and that's one of the jobs that Cloud Staff has. Is we're a very desirable location to work for staff. We put a lot of effort into culture. We have kind of funky offices. We have massages at the desk, ice cream shakes, free lunches, beer every Friday, 2,000 DVD English titles, games room with ping pong tables, Xbox, PlayStation 4s. There's a concierge to look after the staff and run errands for them. You want to pay a bill, the concierge will go and do it for you. Birthday cakes, monthly barbecues. We have our own radio station with the DJ and stuff like that. And, of course, more beer. So we really try to put together a bit of that blending of the culture. So there's this sort of really interesting concept around perks. But there's also the other bit, which is, about, responsibility to the customers and being able to sort of, blend the two cultures together. Attendance, no politics, no backstabbing, all that sort of stuff we manage for the customers. Our customers just focus on here is the work, and a lot of the sort of background culture and retention is taken care of by Cloud Staff.
Fantastic. Sounds like I want to go work for you over there.
It's a very desirable location to work, and we get 30 or 40 resumes in our mailbox every single day. We interview 40 or 50, about 70 staff a week come into the office for interviews. It's a numbers game. It's in Australia, you scratch your head, you put an ad up on Seek, and you get a few responses. It's a different model here.
Absolutely. So are there any other last challenges that you wanted to discuss today, or did you want to show us your platform?
No, I think the platform can be viewed at processbox.com, process-box.com. I think the big thing really is starting small with a couple of identifying some areas that you can break down and get some wins and some success in there, because it's also about having to teach people in Australia. It's not just about making it work offshore here, but you need to be able to sort of teach and train the people back in Australia. What can my offshore team do for me? How do we communicate? How do we get this stuff through? How do I know that the work is going to get done within the time frame that we set, and those sort of things? So we've developed some workflow systems which can be viewed on process-box.com, which will show you some examples, and then we customize those examples for different customers' requirements. Absolutely.
So if a franchisor does go, or a franchisee does go to process-box.com and has a look, are there some common processes that people try out first, just so we can give a step-by-step process?
Absolutely, and more of the admin research ones, researching companies, flight bookings, helping out with some of the social media side of things. They're probably the ones that are probably the low-hanging fruit. When you start to look at things like manage my inbox, that's a really complex process. So it takes a lot of time to get used to how all your contacts are structured and those sort of things. So start with things which are a little bit simpler is usually the best bet.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lloyd. We really appreciate you sharing that in such a good snapshot for our clients. Now, is there any last words that you wanted to pass on?
No, I think that's about it. My last comment was that, jump on a plane, come up here. We'd love to show you around, meet the staff, and take you out for dinner and show you how it all works here. It really is quite an eye-opening experience to realize that the outsourcing can provide more levers inside your business that you probably haven't already considered.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lloyd, and sharing with our franchisors and franchisees exactly what you do. Now, I've had quite a few clients go up there and experience the country and experience the culture, not just what Lloyd's done, but in other areas as well. So it's an amazing place to visit, and you can certainly learn a lot from Lloyd and his team. So thank you so much for joining us today, and
Thanks,
until next time. Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.